Okay, so let's talk about dilution. Dilution is really tricky business when it comes to liquid soaps. And the reason being is that every single oil and element, humidity and everything, plays a factor in how your soap dilutes. You also have to be realistic on what a liquid soap is and what its actual consistency is supposed to be. It is not going to be thick like a gel unless you do, in Catherine Feller's book, the shower gel recipes or process. But this is not that recipe and it's not that process. So a liquid soap, a true liquid soap, is very watery. You know, maybe slightly thicker than water. But it is super not thick, it's not viscous, and the borax helps to begin the thickening process, but it will not thicken it all the way. And a lot of people are turned off, like my customers are turned off by the thinness of the soap. They feel like it's over diluted, when in fact it is still under diluted. I take it to just the point where skin does not form. So I'm going to start with a 1-to-1. I know this is 6 pounds of soap paste, so I'm going to use 6 pounds of water. I'm going to use 3 ounces of borax. Okay, so it's like a ½ ounce per pound of soap paste is what I generally start with. And it really is going to be about experimentation and about failure and about learning. So depending on where you live, what temperatures you're working with, what crock pot you're using, what oils you're using, what kind of lye purity you have, it all plays a factor. You can use citric acid, but citric acid has no thickening powers, so it will neutralize your excess lye because we do have a lye excess. Remember, 90% on our lye calculator. So we do have a lye excess, and we do need to neutralize this. But I use the borax because it neutralizes and it begins the thickening. And then I use Crotix. It's the only thing. I've tried xanthan gum and I've tried salt. It doesn't work in the shampoo. Salt water will work in other formulations, say like Castile or Bastille. It does work with those. It just doesn't work with soaps that are high in coconut oil. So that is where we're at with this. I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to put my 3 ounces of borax, and I'm going to put a pound of water in here, and then I'm going to warm up the other 5 pounds in a separate pot, because it just needs to be warm. We don't want to shock our soap. So we're going to do the 5 pounds of warm water, 1 pound plus 3 ounces of borax, and they're all going to go into there, and then I'm going to put 5 ounces of alcohol in there as well. And that will help break up the molecules and create that negative polarity so they stop trying to come back together. So, that's where we're at. Okay, so we have diluted this for about 18 hours. And my crock pot was too small to hold the entire 6 pounds of water. But I want to show you. So it is diluted, or it's broken down from its paste stage into a liquid stage. And what I did was I actually just turned this to cool it down. And it is actually still warm. Not hot, just warm. And I came in, and it's been about an hour that it's been sitting here like this. And this is how you can tell if your soap is properly diluted or under diluted. So you might be able to see, let's see here. Okay, so let's get you a good view. Alright, so you can see the wrinkles on top, obviously, and there's a skin forming, right? And this skin is soap paste. This is your soap that does not have enough water to dilute into. There's not enough liquid in here to hold it apart, you know, its little molecules. So this is diluted. It is very concentrated soap. And if I take this and I put it into one of my water bottles, like this, one of them jugs, or I put it into one of my glass jars, it won't form a skin. But if I leave it exposed to the air, I will actually be able to form the skin, and unfortunately, then it gets kind of hard to use if it's clogging up your nozzles or your little tips to your bottles. So it's actually important to keep diluting this until the skin stops forming. So it's a few ounces of water at a time. What I'm going to do is I'm actually going to let it sit, and I'm going to see how fast the skin forms, and that's going to kind of tell me how under diluted it is. We're just going to wait a few minutes, and I'll bring you back and we'll time it. We are at 6:53, and we will see how long this takes to form a skin again. Okay, we're at 7:07. The test started at 6:53. It's a pretty decent layer on it. Okay, it's not as bad as I thought. So, I would say I need another maybe 8 ounces of water. Maybe another pound of water. Because I had probably about half a pound of water, which is about 8 ounces. But first, let's test our pH. I use these pH strips. And they have a little color code on the inside. And we need to see what acidity we're at. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to take the little strip and I'm going to set it into what's in my spoon. And we'll wait for it to turn. It's a very, very neutral soap. And it's looking like it's at a 9. So I had a doctor one time tell me handmade soap could not be below a 10. Like, it was an impossibility to make handmade soap that was not too acidic. So this is proof. You've just seen it. This is still in the pot, still warm, still under diluted. And, you know, with every dilution that I'm going to put into there, it's going to neutralize it more and more and more. So, yep. Looks like we're going to have to cool this all the way down. Like, I want it room temperature, and then I'm going to actually add a preservative based on weight. So I'll weigh it out in a couple of different batches into a vessel, and then I will preserve that, mix it, then store it into my jars, and then do it again until I've went ahead and done all of this. And I think I will actually add, I think it'll probably be 2 different jars, and I'll just add 4 ounces of water to each jar, and it will dilute over time as it's sitting there. And every once in a while, go and give it a stir, and, you know, it'll be fine in about 2 to 3 weeks. And you want to let it what's called sequester, so that all of the little particulates that couldn't saponify will settle. They will settle at the bottom. It's like a weird cloudy substance, and you basically decant off or take from above the soap to leave those particulates at the bottom. I still use them personally because they're very conditioning soap, but, you know, they're not really desirable in a container that you can see through, because people will think, oh, something's in it, but it's nothing in it. It's just extra conditioning. When you're doing a liquid soap, get yourself some kind of pH, and we can do another test too, another fun test. Right, and we have the phytophthalein. This is another test. I was not scared of this one, having any excess lye, but phytophthalein will turn red, like a dark red if there's extra lye. So I'll take just a couple drops. And I'm going to add a couple of drops of this onto it. Oh, I guess you can't really see it, but dropper. And as you can see, we have zero redness going on, which means every single bit of lye is gone. There's no lye left in this soap. It is entirely soap. So, you know, you can get to a point of creating safe products for yourself and others. It does take practice. It does take strategy and a lot of research. So phytophthalate is another one of those. You probably need to have it on hand just in case you mismeasured something. It's not looking right. You bust out your phytophthalate after you've neutralized and you see what's gone on. If there's extra lye, you need to neutralize further. That's when I would bust out the citric acid because I don't want to put any more borax in it. But because I am completely neutralized, means I need no further neutralization. So that's good. So making liquid soap is anywhere from 2-day process to a 4-day process, depending on how you dilute it. If you dilute it just by pouring hot water over cold soap paste and just letting it do its thing, it could take 4 days. But because I force mine to melt with the alcohol and the heat, mine takes a little less. But I'm at my 2nd day, and I'll finish this out tonight. And it'll be bottled up and sequestering for the next 2 to 3 weeks. Just to make sure. You know, lets everything settle and do what it needs to do, and it lets the borax start to bind those molecules together to create the viscosity. Alright, we are on day 3, and I let this sit overnight, and my pH is now between a 7 and an 8, and so I'm able to use my preservative called Jamal Plus. So I'm going to pour this into this container and I'm going to weigh it out. And we're going to then preserve it by weight. So it's like 0.5%, which is 0.5%, of your total weight of liquid. So that is what I will be doing. Then you see these jars over here. These are what it will be going into to sequester on a shelf. So, that's what I'm going to go ahead and get ready to do. 4 pounds. And you see that I have my gloves on. So when you're going to preserve something, it is what it is, right? But we're going to stop it from growing yeast, mold, or fungus. So we want to make sure that we're not introducing any bacteria that could produce those and compromise our preservative. So when we're going to preserve, we're going to wear gloves. You can preserve anywhere from 0.5% to 1% of your total liquid. So this is 64 ounces and I'm doing a half, so it's going to be 0.32 ounces is what I will be doing in my preservative. And so that is this portion, and then I will do it again, and I will recalculate depending on how much weight I have in my bowl. And you just keep doing that. Here's my sanitized scraper. And we're going to mix it really well. And it's just, you want to really make sure that you incorporate it all the way into your soap. Normally, like my body soaps are a little bit of a higher pH. They're around 9. And they don't require preservative, but anytime you're dipping below an 8, there is a chance that yeast, mold, or fungus can grow. And we don't want to harm anybody. So if somebody has a cut on their arm and they wash with something that has a bad bacteria growing in it, it can actually get into their bloodstream and kill them. So think of every single body product you're making as potential disaster for somebody's body. That's why we need to clearly label what ingredients we're putting into it. We need to clearly make sure that we are preserving water-containing products. And even some non-water containing products should probably be preserved, like sugar scrubs, even though they contain no water. It's because of the sugar, and yeast and molds can actually just thrive off of sugar. So you want to make sure that you're stopping them from being able to grow. Alright, and there's that. And, you know, I used alcohol in this, but as it was diluting and heating, the alcohol has evaporated. There's no more alcohol in this. All that was left from the alcohol portion was just water. And you would smell it if you have alcohol still. So there is half a gallon. And it's all kinds of bubbly and whatnot, so it's not going to be clear until it settles again. Not to mention all the bubbles on top, which I hate, but it's just what happens. And you repeat the process. Alright, 99 ounces off of that one. Keep yourself a lot of paper towels handy. And yes, if you're going to be touching your phone, you need to also sterilize your phone. So 0.50 ounce, it's actually 0.49, but my scale doesn't do that, and I have up to 1%, so we're going to go ahead and we're going to go with 0.5. I'd rather have a little more than I planned than less. So I had a doctor, cancer doctor, I have melanoma, and I had it removed and I had some lymph nodes removed, and unfortunately it's caused me to have lymphedema. And he wanted me to use this CeraVive or Ceramide, something. And I said, no, I make my own soap. And he said, well, no, that's not possible. It's still going to be too high of a pH. It's going to damage your skin cells because of the way lymphedema is. And he said, anything above a 10 is bad, and that's usually what handmade soaps are. Except that almost all of my soaps are 9 or below. So this, hopefully he will watch this. I'm not even caring if he does or not, but I would like him to watch this. And that this soap, even though it has been formulated for hair, works as a body wash. Because soap is soap. So this would be amazing for my leg, that unfortunately is, got the lymphedema. This will not harm my tissue at all. So, it's just another example of natural is not impossible for things that happen to us. We can continue down the natural path, and we can create our own products that will not harm us despite lymphedema, or eczema, psoriasis, and in fact, our bodies become so dependent upon other chemicals, synthetics, it's kind of scary. And so, since I've devoted myself to this path, I have not used a commercial soap since 8 years ago. And I have no regrets whatsoever. I've learned everything I could because it wasn't just for me, it was for my kids as well. That I want my kids to be as healthy as they could, to give them every opportunity and chance to not have to deal with melanoma. I didn't even know that I could get it because it's not my genes or anything. It's just an unfortunate thing that happened, I guess. And it's something I will always have to deal with. You know, lymphedema never goes away. In fact, it is degenerative. It will just get worse, especially as I get heavier. And unfortunately, I have a thyroid issue. I had thyroid cancer as well at the same time. They discovered the thyroid cancer when I had my PET scan for the melanoma. And so unfortunately, I don't get a lot of leeway with my weight because my thyroid is not there to support that. So I do what I can, but I've come to terms with my body being what it's going to be. And eating healthy and making healthy choices is what I can do. What I can't do is tell my body to lose 5 pounds and make it do it. So if you've got thyroid cancer, or you've had your thyroid removed, you probably know what I'm talking about. Okay, so I'm actually going to put the rest in the smaller jug because I may have to add more water to this because we know it's under diluted, right? We remember the skin from the previous segment, so we know it is under diluted and that I have added a bit of water, but it's not for sure going to be enough. So when you have very under-diluted liquid soap, it will actually solidify in your jar, and you will know. And you just add a few ounces, again, of hot water. And let it dilute as it needs to dilute. There we go. So, a little over a gallon. Maybe a gallon and a third. That's not bad. I mean, cost-wise, for being an amazing natural product, this is totally worth it. So you can make natural liquid soap. It is not as pretty or as viscous or as pleasant as what we have come to know in commercial soap. Commercial soap is synthetics. Your bubble bath that you're buying from the store is not a natural soap. It does come from the coca bentane, I'm probably saying that wrong, which does come from coconuts, but it is still synthetically modified to become what it is. So I'm not a hater on it. I think it's amazing, but it's still one of those things that you didn't know was a synthetic. So you can make all of your daily routine soaps, down to your laundry soap, your dish soap, your hand soap, your shampoo. So if you are beginning, do not begin with this. This is actually just an exposure for you. The people that have mastered bar soap, go ahead and move into this. This is amazing. It is really fantastic to be able to watch your kids' face when they see that you've just replaced their shampoo that they get from the store with something they actually like. That makes their hair beautiful. That makes their hair smell good. You know, that makes them feel better. The more toxins we take away from our children, the better they will feel about themselves in their own bodies and in their own skins. So, you know, be awesome, be unique. This is it. We're going to go ahead and put the caps on, let them sit for 2 to 3 weeks. Be awesome, be unique. See you next time, and y'all have a wonderful day.